If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. It would really help the channel, and we have battle reports, boarding actions, and list videos every week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Adeptus Custodes Shield Host List Roundup. This video is going to be a roundup of some of my list ideas for the Shield Host detachment from the past few months, with some changes that have come from playing the list or points changes. I have 7 2,000 points lists and 2 1,000 points lists for this video. Some have all Codex units and some have a mix of Forge World and Codex. I wanted to include different options to give those with not as many units or a lot of units a list or two to try. This is not the usual breakdown of the list. I will give 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses to each list though. And once again, sorry if I sound a little weird. I am still sick, so I'm still trying to pump these out just because I enjoy making the videos. We will start these 2,000 points lists with the more competitive lists, the ones I would consider bringing to a tournament. The first one is Warden's Law, and this is an all infantry list. It comes to 2,000 points exactly. Our warlord is Valerian. We have 2 blade champions as our characters, no enhancements. We have 4 custodian guard as our battle line, 3 with spears, 1 with the vexilla, the shield, and the misericordia. For our other data sheets, we have 2 units of 5 wardens, both with the guardian spears and the vexilla. Then we have a unit of 4 wardens with the spears and the vexilla. We have 3 units of 3 venatari, all of them equipped with the venatari lances. 5-man unit of prosecutors, just so I have a little bit bigger unit to screen my home field. It's not that much bigger, but I figured why not put the points in that. Then we have a unit of 4 witch seekers. For our allied units, we have Inquisitor Draxus and a Custodes assassin. So for the strengths of this list, we have 3 units of wardens. They will be hard to kill. Then we have 3 units of Venatari for that deep strike threat. We can rapid ingress all 3 of them down at the same time if we want to, and secondary scoring with the Witch Seeker and the Custodes Assassin and those Venatari. We should have no problem getting some decent secondary scoring. For our weaknesses, we have no ranged anti-tank, so we're going to have to watch out for those shooting lanes. The enemy will have the ranged units just parked in those shooting lanes, ready for us to poke our heads out. It will be hard to screen our back lines with only those prosecutors and maybe a few other units back there, but eventually it's only going to be the prosecutors back there. And damage modifiers. 90% of these weapons are damaged too, so if we run anything with -1 damage, we're going to have a hard time. The next one is Warden's Law again, but this one has grav tanks. It is 2,000 points exactly. The same kind of list where we have Valerian, the 2 blade champions, the unit of 4 custodian guard. This time it's 3 units of 5 wardens with the spears and the vexilla, just 1 unit of 3 venatari with the lances, and then 2 Caladius grav tank with that Arachnus heavy blaze cannon. Then we have a unit of 5 prosecutors. Finally, for our allies, we have Inquisitor Draxus to join up with that custodian guard. For the strengths for this list, 3 units of wardens is going to be hard to kill, just like the first Warden's Law list. Ranged anti-tank, we have a lot better ranged anti-tank with these Caladius grav tanks. They can output a lot of damage, but they can also be swingy, so that's why I have 2 in the list, just for a little bit of redundancy. Our mid-board control with the wardens to stand on objectives, we're going to have some good mid-board control with some hard-to-kill units. For our weaknesses, we have no Witch Seekers for early board control, so we have no one to maybe scout towards the mid-objective turn 1. Not as much deep strike threat in this one, with only 1 unit of Venatari. And secondary scoring will be a bit weaker in this one. We don't have that Custodes Assassin, and we don't have a unit of Witch Seekers. And finally, for our competitive list, we have Watchers of the Throne. I used a similar list to this one against the Dark Angels recently on the channel. We have Valerian as our warlord, 2 units of blade champions, no enhancements. We actually have 2 units of custodian guard. The first one is the 4 with the guardian spear and the vexilla. The other unit is 5 custodian guard with 5 guardian spears. And we're going to be joining that 5-man with a blade champion. 2 units of 5 custodian wardens, both with the guardian spears and the vexilla. A unit of 4 prosecutors, 2 Caladius grav tanks with the Arachnus heavy blaze cannon. For our allies, we have Inquisitor Draxus, a Custodes assassin, and a subductor squad to stand on my home objective. We can string them out. They have a 4-up invulnerable save. They are a lot harder to kill, and I would rather someone shoot their anti-tank at those instead of my Custodes. For the strengths for Watchers of the Throne, 2 Custodian Guard to use Vigilance Eternal at Sticky Objective Stratagem. I'll throw it up here just so you can see what it does. You do need a battle line unit.
Ranged anti-tank is going to be good in this list with our 2 tanks. Secondary scoring will be strong. Anytime we have the Callous Assassin, it really helps our secondary scoring. Weaknesses, no Witch Seekers for early board control, and once again, damage modifiers like -1 damage, half damage will kill the output of these Guardian Spears. And those are the more competitive lists, so let's move on to some All Codex lists, just so for people that don't have a bunch of these Forge World units. Next up, we have 2 lists that are made entirely out of Codex units. The first one is going to be a Codex All Infantry list. 2,000 points exactly. Our Warlord is a Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jet Bike. No enhancements. We have 2 Blade Champions, also with no enhancements. For our battle line, we have 2 units of 4 Custodian Guard. Both of them have the Guardian Spears. Our other data sheets, we have 2 units of 5 Wardens with the Guardian Spears in the Vexilla. 2 units of 5 Alaris Terminators. One of them has 5 Guardian Spears, the other have 5 Castellan Axes. A unit of 4 Witch Seekers, and 2 units of 4 Prosecutors. The strengths for this Codex All Infantry list, we have 2 units of Guard to do that sticky objective, 2 units of Alaris to deep strike and then use Golden Light. 1 unit has axes for those damage modifier enemies, because that axe will only be reduced down to damage 2 and still be a credible threat. The Shield Captain and Dawn Eagle gives the list some unique speed and stratagem support, since they can reduce a stratagem by 1 CP once per battle round. For the weakness, we have no ranged anti-tank. The list lacks small MSU units for deep strike, and it will be hard to screen our backlines with this list. The next Codex list is going to be a combined arms. Once again, 2,000 points. Our Warlord is going to be a Blade Champion with the Orc Mantle Enhancement, giving him 2 extra wounds. Our other character, we have a Blade Champion. Battle line, 2 units of 4 Custodian Guard with the Spears. For our other data sheets, we have 2 units of 5 Wardens with the Guardian Spears and the Vexilla. A unit of 5 Alaris Terminators with the Castellan Axes. 2 Venerable Land Raiders for some anti-tank support. They have the Stormbolter and Hunter Killer Missile that don't come automatically. You have to put that in for some weird reason. Why wouldn't you take them? But here we are. And then 2 units of 4 Witch Seekers. The strengths of this list, transports for our slow infantry, some ranged anti-tank with those las cannons. They do hit on 2, so each one will have 4 shots hitting on 2s, strength 12, AP 3, damage D6 plus 1. That's decent. It's not as good as the Caladius Grav tanks, but it's better than nothing. The Alaris with the axes to hunt down Catan or Deathwing Knights, since they will only be reduced down to damage 2 instead of the spears being reduced down to damage 1. Our weaknesses, the 2 Land Raiders can be really hard to move around depending on the terrain. Our secondary scoring will be lacking, and screening our back lines will be hard because we'll be pushing these Land Raiders up the board. They're not like the Grav tanks where they sit in our backfield shooting down the board at people. And those are my 2 Codex lists. Let's move on to a few silly lists that you could try out for some casual games or just to see how they work. Now these lists should still do quite good on the table. They'll still be pretty deadly. They just might not be as good as the Warden's Law, where it's just a pile of Wardens and Grav tanks or other good infantry. This one is called the Knight Custodes for 2,000 points. We have a Blade Champion as our Warlord, no enhancement. Our other character, we have another Blade Champion. Our battle line is 5 Custodian Guard, 4 with Spears, 1 with the Vexilla, Shield, and Misericordia. For our other data sheets, we do have 2 units of 5 Wardens with Spears and the Vexilla, 2 units of 4 Prosecutors, finally 2 Caladius Grav tanks with the Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannons. For our allies, we have Inquisitor Draxus to join that Custodian Guard. Then we have 3 Armiger Warglaze with Melt-A-Gun, Thermal Spear, and that Reaper Chainblade. So this list will actually have a lot of anti-tank shooting. So the strengths of this list, not surprisingly, will be lots of ranged anti-tank. And it's going to be fast for a Custodes list. We'll be able to fly those Armigers up the table. We have the Blade Champions for advancing and charging. It will be faster than the normal average move 6 list. 3 Knights and 2 Grav tanks will make our infantry units low priority to be shot with high damage weapons. And that's what usually takes out our Custodes infantry. The weaknesses is secondary scoring. It still might be decent, but I still think without an Assassin and some Witch Seeker units, it will be a bit weaker. The anti-tank shooting from the enemy, we have a lot of vehicles in this list, so we do have weakness for anti-tank shooting. If we're fighting something that has a whole bunch of strength 12, a whole bunch of las cannons, we might be in trouble. And there's no real deep strike threat in this list. I prefer both Warden's units start on the board for this list. And last, one of my favorite lists, the Golden Wa. For 2,000 points exactly, we have Trajan Valorous as our warlord, just because I want him to smash some heads in. 5 units of 4 Custodian Guard, all of them have the Guardian Spears. A unit of 5 Custodian Wardens with the Guardian Spear and Vexilla, that's going to be for Trajan Valorous to join. 2 units of 3 Venatari with Venatari Lances, and then we have a big unit of 6 Venatari. 5 have the Venatari Lances, while 1 has the Kinetic Destroyer and the Tarsus Buckler, just to soak up a little extra damage in Overwatch. Finally, a unit of 4 Witchseekers. The strengths, lots of Custodian Guard to sticky objectives with that Vigilance Eternal stratagem, 9 Custodes infantry units to threaten board control, that's a lot more than the usual 5 to 6 that are in my list, 3 units of Venatari for triple rapid ingress. The weaknesses, there is no ranged anti-tank, there's no chaff units, and we will be slow with no blade champions in the list to advance and charge. The Venatari are fast, but other than that, we'll be foot slogging up the board with our Custodian Guard. Now let's go over the 2 1,000 point lists. One of them is a All Codex infantry list, while the other has some anti-tank from Forge World. For the Codex All Infantry, our warlord is Valerian. For our characters, we have a blade champion with that Auric Mantle for 2 extra wounds. Our battle line, we have 4 Custodian Guard, 3 of them with spears, 1 of them with Presidium Shield, Vexilla, and Misericordia. For our other data sheets, we have 5 Custodian Wardens with the spears and Vexilla. That will be joining Valerian. A unit of 3 Alaris Terminators with the Castellan Axes, a unit of 4 Prosecutors, and then 2 units of 4 Witchseekers. The strengths for this list, 1 Custodian Guard to use Vigilance Eternal to sticky objectives. That way we're not stuck standing on objective all game, because these 1,000 points lists, units really matter. Alaris with the Axes to deal with some damage modifying units like Deathwing Knights, and the secondary scoring should be quite strong with these Witchseekers. Weaknesses, there is no ranged anti-tank, there's not a lot of units to keep the backline safe, and board control. As we scale down in total points for games, our expensive units feel even more expensive. It's harder to fit enough units in your list to make your army work to get secondary scoring and primary scoring at the same time. And our next 1,000 point list, the anti-tank list. Our warlord is Valerian. For our characters, we have a blade champion with the Panopta Spec enhancement that allows his unit to ignore cover when shooting ranged attacks. For our battle line, we have a unit of 4 Custodian Guard, once again 3 with the spears and 1 with Vexilla, Shield, and Misericordia. For our other data sheets, 5 Custodian Wardens with the spears to join Valerian, and then a Caladius Grab Tank as our anti-tank. Once again, 4 Witchseekers and 2 Prosecutors. For our strengths, and once again a Custodian Guard unit to sticky objectives if we use that stratagem. Ranged anti-tank is decent in this list, and secondary scoring will be quite good with those Witchseekers. Our weaknesses, we only really have 2 tough Custodes infantry units, no deep strike threat, and board control will be a bit harder with only 2 Custodes infantry units. And those are all the lists. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys can find something that at least interests you. And let's go on to some final thoughts. Some final thoughts. I hope at least one of these lists interests you all. I added a lot of different options to try. I could have made more 1,000 point lists, but I figured a lot of these 2,000 point lists could be scaled to 1,000 points. I'm sure there's more strengths and weaknesses to each of these lists. These were just some general things to keep in mind if you're playing the list. If this video does well, I will do a Talons of the Emperor Detachment next with a bunch of lists and some options that you guys could try. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, boarding actions, and other Warhammer 40K content. Like I always say, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.